All right, cut. I think we got it. I think we got it on that tape.
There was a lot of collaboration between Mark and I in the beginning. Mark had this amazing idea to take something scientific and add a completely different layer to it, transform it into music. What we really clearly needed to do is conceptually think what steps in this technology and this chemistry do we need to portray in music? And what do we compare it to so that the general audience understand what we're doing?
The world of molecules and chemistry is not really accessible to most people. I wanted to tell two things. One was, in the world of plastic, what is extraordinary about plastic, just from a material viewpoint, and how does that make it a problem? And then to say, why does nature have such a problem with it? The idea came to mind, I know a little bit about music, I am not a musician, of representing the building blocks in a plastic molecule with musical notes. And the simplest way to do that was to simply put a bunch of eighth notes on a line and call those carbons. Even if people don't understand the first thing about chemistry, everybody pretty much knows what octane is. Octane is both a property of the fuel we put in our cars, and it's a molecule that has 8 carbon atoms in it. It's a small little thing. Polyethylene, a common plastic, has 50 or 100,000. So if we play that, it goes on for 2.5 hours of just the same note. And of course, at that point, people say this is boring, it's monotonous. And that's the problem with plastic. I thought, if we put ourselves in nature's position and say, what do I, nature, think of this molecule? Nature's response is, I've got better things to do. With music, we were able, in section B of this 4-part composition, to bring out the monotony of plastic and convey how, in a way, what a problem that is.
Mark's simple concept. I love how Mark's brain works. Plastics don't recycle naturally because nature finds them boring. It's such an interesting way for others to see the benefits and concerns we have with plastics and how Aduro is working to address them. How do we wrap this into a story that doesn't sound like a lecture? I wanted the audience to see the beauty and wonder of our world and how important plastic is, and how we should use and reuse it responsibly. The idea of having a live pianist was there from the beginning. Watching a pianist on a grand piano in a concert hall puts you into focus. You're more present, you listen more. And having these two disparate fields, music and science, coming together in physical form, makes the metaphor more concrete.
My world is telling stories with music and sound, and so often that means love stories or fear or anger and things like that, emotional stuff. David reached out to me and he was like, we're doing this project based on chemistry. I was like, I don't know what that means, but that is definitely sounds like something interesting, and I want to go further and see where that goes. Working with Mark, we had really long conversations. He's a fan of saying he likes to talk, and I like to listen. So we had a lot of back and forth and hearing his ideas on chemistry. And I would take all that in, bring it back to Jeremy, and we would both do our own research based off of that. And it was just really fun to have a different set of parameters than what we're used to working with.
I can't say enough about Brian and his creativity. I said, Brian, I'd like to use the first notes out of Beethoven Symphony No. 6. And so you hear at the very end of the first section and again at the very end of the piece, 4 notes which we borrowed very directly and unapologetically from a great.
It was very enjoyable to do this project. I found it immensely rewarding and also a very fun and compelling challenge of trying to bridge these scientific concepts with music and make it accessible and digestible so that people who maybe don't have as strong a background or one or the other or both are still able to understand the sort of narrative and the sort of emotional impetus for what we're getting at.
When I first heard about this idea, it was very intriguing because there's so many elements to it, as far as the theatrical element to it, the filming, the music, the science, the acting. I was very excited to do it because it was different. One of the biggest challenges that we faced was the timing of the projections and to ensure that we had the right imagery for the music that was being played. And I think we came across a great balance of those pieces, and we were able to time those out. Anytime you're working with actors where there's no dialogue, they have to be very emotive in what they do. Dave was incredible at what he was doing. At first he was, I would say, a little bit nervous because he's played a lot of piano and played in front of a lot of people, but he hasn't necessarily had to act at the same time as playing. But we managed to get him into that role. Mark and Stephanie really worked with him on that. And in the end, we got the results that we were looking for.
Having cameras up close and having a purpose for a story is something that I've never done before. There were a fair amount of takes where I needed to crystallize and perfect and clarify just my facial expressions, which was really challenging, but it was fun at the same time. Part C of the piece, I think, was the most challenging to perform. Your hands just start to get spread further apart, and just the really high kind of sharp things that come in, we've been calling the bling. And the blings are representing those breaks in the molecules. They happen more and more frequently, and they mix with the repeated note patterns that they're breaking up. I was trying to make faces with the scientist. I was presenting this idea with my facial expressions, doing all of that at the same time. There were very few takes where I actually nailed that.
Doing this role in being silent and having to use my body language and facial expressions, I related it back to being a photographer on the other side of the camera, asking clients to act with their face and to show me what it's like without having to talk to me. So I was trying to put myself on that side, which is new to me. But it was interesting because I know that I'm a fairly expressive person. So it wasn't as challenging as I thought it was going to be. It was actually pretty fun.
When Stephanie had taken the kernel of an idea and presented me with a storyboard about what this video might be, there was a scene of a piano and then a screen behind it and projections of natural scenes. Personally, I made a direct association with a 1973 movie with Charlton Heston. It's called Soylent Green. There's a beautiful scene where a man is laying on a bed and he gets to experience something he has never seen in this world, and that is similar to our opening scene with tulips and dolphins and oceans and mountains. For me, the significant thing was it's set to music, and sure enough, Beethoven's Symphony No. 6.
What we wanted to portray with this project is man-made material and nature can actually beautifully live together if we as humans know what to do with the man-made stuff when we're done using it. And that is the reason why we're here. That is the reason why Aduro exists, right? Because we have come up with an amazing technology to take care of probably 70% of this plastic that we put into a bin.
Just as I would be remiss in the end, I think it's important to use this project as a way to emphasize what amazing visionary management Aduro has. Because rather than doing the same things, which is technically what's been done, they're receptive to doing something different and trying to tell a story in a meaningful way and help people understand what we're about.
From refuse to reuse, from boring to beautiful. Aduro, working together for a more sustainable future.